Susan was 33 years old, had a successful nursing career, and was ready to settle down in January 1988. She hadn't had much luck dating and decided to use a matchmaking service to find her ideal match. SWF, 33, overweight but not out of shape, seeks SM who seeks more from a relationship than just being slender. Active healthcare professional who enjoys exploring NW and having fun with someone who is intelligent, thoughtful, and full of humor. It is necessary to be emotionally and financially mature. Please respond if you are looking for a bright, funny lady who is brave enough to advertise. She received a response 2 weeks later. Michael Kuhnhausen, 40, responded. Michael was recently divorced and had 2 children. He told Susan that he had served in Vietnam but was now a janitorial supervisor. They exchanged phone numbers and began chatting. Susan was outgoing, her job as an ER nurse was demanding, and she liked to unwind after a long week by spending time with friends, traveling, and going out. Michael was a homebody, and when they were dating, he had no objections to Susan going out. Michael moved into Susan's Portland, Oregon home after 5 months of dating. On December 10, 1988, after nearly a year of dating, the two married in an intimate ceremony in Reno, Nevada. Everything seemed to be going swimmingly for the couple at first. Susan adored Michael's children and considered their family to be complete. However, after years of marriage, cracks began to appear in their relationship. After many years of marriage, Michael began to question Susan's spending habits. Despite the fact that she made significantly more money than he did, which had never bothered Susan, it did cause problems when Michael tried to dictate how she spent her money. He also began to have increasingly frequent angry outbursts. His outbursts were apparently caused by the trauma he endured while serving in the military. Susan discovered that Michael had never seen combat and had worked a desk job when she looked into his military history. His outbursts became increasingly venomous, scaring Susan. She issued an ultimatum: either go to counseling and seek help, or divorce. By 2005, their marriage had changed little, and Susan proposed a trial separation. Michael moved in with his father, but the couple kept in touch. They had grandchildren by this point and tried to keep things as normal for their family as possible, attending family events together and maintaining a friendly relationship. They continued to work on their marriage in the hopes of reconciling. Susan, on the other hand, realized that she was thriving while they were apart. She began to enjoy her life for the first time in years and realized she no longer wanted to be married to Michael. In the summer of 2006, she requested a divorce from him. Her relationship with Michael began to deteriorate after that. Susan returned home from Providence Portland Medical Center on September 6, 2006. She needed to get ready for an out-of-town nursing convention. She disarmed her home alarm system, walked through the mudroom, and discovered a note from Michael by the microwave that read, "Sue, haven't been sleeping. I needed to get away, so I went to the beach." Susan had asked him to house sit, and she expected this to be his response. Michael always had a key to her house and his own alarm code, which Susan never changed after he moved out. She went to the front door and checked the mail. When she returned, she noticed something strange. Her bedroom was pitch black, and she assumed she had left the curtains open that morning, as she did every day. A man jumped out from behind the door as Susan approached her bedroom. The man was 5 feet 9 and nearly 200 pounds, dressed in slacks, a striped shirt, and yellow rubber kitchen gloves. He also had a claw hammer in red and black. Susan was attacked by a man who hit her in the head several times. Susan knew she had to act or else she would perish. Susan started fighting for her life. She wrestled the hammer away from Haffey, but she dropped it in the process. She fought fiercely, hitting, biting, and even tearing through his pockets to leave more evidence. She thought she was going to die, and if she did, she wanted to leave as much evidence as possible. She recalled something her father had said to her. He advised her to get as close to the attacker as possible if she was ever attacked, reasoning that being close to someone reduces the impact of the blows. Her father, who also worked in construction, had advised her to always use the claw end of a hammer in self-defense. Her job as an ER nurse had also unintentionally prepared her for a situation like this. Nurses in an emergency room deal with unpredictable patients and are required to attend self-defense classes on a regular basis. Susan had never had to put her training to use before this night. Susan wrestled the man until she was able to swing her left leg over his body and wrap her left arm around his neck, putting Haffey in a chokehold. "Who sent you here?" she kept asking. Susan held him in the chokehold until his color changed and he stopped moving. The fight lasted 14 minutes. Susan grabbed the hammer and dashed over to her neighbor's house so they could call 911. This is an excerpt from the transcript. "What did she use on him?" asks the 911 dispatcher. "He was strangled by her." "Did she do anything else?" "She put a chokehold on him," says Ann Warnock, a neighbor. "I've got assistance on the way. Maintain your position on the line. She's got a hammer right here. Don't go near it. Don't even think about touching it. Just leave it at that." She hit him several times in the head. That's the hammer he was carrying. She hit him, strangled him, and now she believes he's dead. "Was he alone?" asked the dispatcher. "Did he have anyone with him?" asks a neighbor. "No." She expressed concern that the person may have been sent by her ex-partner. "Has she had problems with her ex-husband or ex-partner?" says the dispatcher. She did talk to Mike, her ex-partner, and asked him to house sit for the cats, and he said he couldn't do it, a neighbor says. "He was driving to the beach. He left a note for her. He is aware of the alarm." Okay, that's useful information to share with the officers. When the cops arrived at her house, they discovered the man dead in the hallway. Edward Dalton Haffey, age 59, was revealed by the wallet in his pocket. An autopsy revealed that Haffey had a near-lethal dose of cocaine in his system at the time he attacked Susan. He had a lengthy criminal record and was known to abuse drugs. Susan was never charged, and police deemed her actions to be self-defense. Haffey had a lengthy criminal history, including the murder of his ex-girlfriend in 1991, for which he served only 9 years in prison. Police initially suspected a burglary, but there were no signs of forced entry into the house. Susan went to the house the next day with a friend to pack a bag. They discovered a backpack in the basement that Susan had never seen before. There were some personal items inside, which were quickly identified as belonging to the man who had attacked her. Inside was a pay stub, medication, and information implying that her husband, Michael Kuhnhausen, was involved, a datebook with the words, "Call Mike, get letter," as well as Michael's new cell phone number. The pay stub belonged to the same company for which Michael worked, and he was also a Vietnam veteran. They'd been working together for 2 years, and it hadn't taken long for detectives to notice. Susan had told the police that the alarm had been set when she arrived home, so her husband must have deactivated it for this man because he was the only one who knew the code. When he dropped off the note, most likely. Authorities began looking for Michael. On September 8, they discovered a suicide note he had left at his father's house. "All I ever wanted was to be loved, and every time I got it, I messed it up," it said in part. The police issued a bulletin in his honor. They had also discovered that he had purchased a revolver through financial records. On September 13, they finally found him outside Kaiser Sunnyside Medical Center, where he was checking himself in and saying he had nothing left to live for. Michael was placed on psychiatric hold for 11 hours after being arrested for murder conspiracy. Michael had no life insurance policies that were still linked to Susan. After their divorce, she changed the beneficiary to her brother. He was still on the title to the house they shared, which was worth $300,000 at the time. He would inherit the house if Susan died. Michael denied any involvement with Haffey during his initial interrogation. Officers presented evidence that the two worked together, but he insisted he didn't know him. "I didn't do it," he later admitted. "I didn't do anything because I knew the guy." Throughout the trial, there was overwhelming evidence that Michael was involved in the assassination attempt on his ex-wife. They offered $5,000 to a man Michael and Haffey approached for assistance, but he declined. Michael pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder on August 30, 2007. He received a 10-year prison sentence. He admitted to offering $50,000 for Haffey's murder. Susan was always afraid that Michael would return and try again once he was released from prison. She relocated, installed security systems, and laid gravel around the house so she could hear anyone approaching. She even bought a gun and learned how to shoot it. She won a $1 million lawsuit against her ex-husband, claiming she hoped he wouldn't have enough money to try again. Michael was scheduled to be released on September 14, 2014, but he died of prostate cancer in June, 92 days before his release. Susan's death was sad, but it also brought her a lot of relief. "I don't mourn his passing," she said in a statement to the media. "Instead, I lament the life he could have had if he had only opened his heart to those of us who loved him." Susan also stated that she, like the Kuhnhausen family, hoped he would find peace in the afterlife. Susan still spends her time telling people about her story. She is an advocate for crime victims and hopes that by sharing her story, she can help others. She still claims that killing her assailant was the most difficult thing she had ever done. She was troubled by the media's portrayal of her as a hero. Her boss gave her some sound advice that she remembered. "They aren't calling you a hero because you murdered a man. They're calling you a hero because they want to believe that if they were in your shoes, they, too, could survive." What are your thoughts on the Susan Kuhnhausen's case? I really appreciate your input. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Be a part of the Chris Crime Diaries family and hit the subscribe button now.